Start. Hi, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? This is weird. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know
able
if
to
I'm
hear you.
supposed to talk or not, or
Yeah, you can. Okay then. Yeah. Okay, Doug. Let's start. We'll start the session now. Let's start the session.
So do you want to give an introduction first? So what is the platform you're setting up and why have you invited me here to it?
Yeah, sure. Okay then. Let me start. So I've set up this. So I'm Kritik. I was a game designer previously. I worked in I worked in an edtech company as a game designer like 2 years. And yeah, I'm setting up this mentorship session. Like this is the first time I'm setting up this podcast session, and I'm hopeful it's going to be great. And first of all, thanks Doug for accepting this. I think I promised you that you'll be the first mentor for this event, and thanks for that. So my main motto is to start this session is that to give a mentorship, like people should understand what game development, what games industry. The main motive is to break the myth, and I want like the mentors to deliver the knowledge to the audience. That's my main motto. So I've set up this platform via Teams because Teams is great. I felt this platform's great and it's going to be accessible for everyone. And this is the first session, and first session is based on production, the production actually, and I also have a group called Game Dev Testing, right? So first session is on production. Doug has expertise in the games industry and production. I just don't want to like explain wide. I just wanted to get into the session as fast as possible. So he has a wide experience, and it's going to be fun because he's going to teach the tools which are used in the games industry, so that you'll get an understanding of what a producer does in the video games industry. You're going to love it. And and after that, you get a twist that and the twist is that is gonna break the myth of the games industry. And let's have fun.
I'll break a couple if I can. Yeah.
Yes.
It's hard to remember from the inside what I didn't understand from the outside and what the surprises are, the new ones. But anyway, cool. As a quick intro to myself and
please do.
Where I'm at and how I got here. So I am Doug. I am a senior producer. That never means the same thing in any place. Currently, I'm in Infinity Ward, working on the Call of Duty series, but there are many producers within my team and they all do different things. But my development history, the first game I've ever had anything to do with, I was 15, making MIDI music for a friend's game on Newgrounds. And then making a few more soundtracks and things and sound design in game jams, just as a hobby as I was going through university. And then my first real professional role, like as a full-time game employee, came as a game tester in Microsoft. This was back in 2010. And this is where I thought it was going to be just a 3-month summer contract, but that contract rolled for 2 and a bit years. And that's where I saw the throughput of the pipeline and how a game finds its way out to being released. And then my intention at the time was originally to try to find my way towards sound design and music. But after a couple of years at Microsoft, took a bit of time out, looked at being a freelance sound designer, realized I didn't know what I was doing enough yet. And so I found another job at Creative Assembly, which became my home for the next 9 years. And that was as an audio game tester working on the Total War series. Then moving over to as a senior game tester to the Alien Isolation team, which is great fun to work on. Then my first production role. I applied for this because I was starting to realize that while sound design was not going to be the right place for me to go, I enjoyed it as a hobby, but as a profession, it wasn't pulling me that way. And managing was, and team organization was. And I was enjoying solving these problems and helping some of the geniuses I was surrounded by get things done easier. So what I was then, and then a role became available on my team as an associate producer, or they called it then associate development manager. And that was done for a reason. I'll come to that. I did get the role. It was an application and an interview. And there were a couple of us interviewing for it internally, but I got it. The reason they chose development manager is because producer, it comes with a kind of idea behind it, specifically from music and film, that the producer decides what happens. They've been given a budget, they've been given a goal, and they then go run around to go and make sure everything happens, keep everyone in line, and make sure it's all done. As the games industry's gone on, this isn't quite the right description all the time, and there's been more influence from the software project manager style of the job, and so it's kind of become merged with both. In our case, what they needed from us was more of a software project manager, and so they were calling their role on that team development manager, because when they were hiring for people, this is more of what they needed. They needed people to come in, help with project measuring, forecasting, projecting, and which would then influence decision making. They weren't trying to hire product owners. That was the case in Creative Assembly at the time. Many other times in game studios, that is exactly what they're after. And so when you're applying for a production role, you need to read that description really carefully. They may look similar, but there will be varieties. Some of them will want you to have an opinion on the final product. Others will want you to aspire to supporting team members and building like good teamwork mechanics. Others will want you designing processes, or maybe understanding something already, like understanding the technical details behind releasing. So for the next few years, both on the Halo Wars 2 team and then on the Total War team again, my production grew. I started to get experience managing VFX teams, audio teams a lot, localization. Before then, a little after the pandemic in 2022, I then I left Creative Assembly and moved over to a company called Fundamental VR, working on virtual reality surgeon training simulators. And this was a very deliberate move to shake up my comfort zones, because I had some skills, but I was getting comfortable in Creative Assembly, and I wanted to be challenged by more. I wanted more surprises and more difficulty, and I got it in Fundamental VR. I got it was a faster moving place. VR was a new thing to tackle, which I was interested in, still am. And the pace of projects was so much quicker that I had to start responding to things faster. My roadmaps were not yet 3 years long anymore. They were 3 months, and then something had to be done. My mindset had to flex between projects. I had to deal with new stakeholders. We had clients rather than players. Lots of really interesting stuff. And then 2024, I moved over to Call of Duty, over to Barcelona, where I live now. And my main role now is managing outsource work. And so it's a huge outsourcing pipeline, and they need production support to manage the relationships, keep a lot of processes flowing, and again, project how far a budget can take a team. And hey, welcome to the call.
Hi, Arjun. Thanks for being in the call.
Hi.
Hey. I guess wrapping up the intro, one of the last things that has been kind of fun for me is I've recently put a book out, which I think has got me a little bit of attention. And it's called The Pocket Mentor for Game Production, and it's pretty much a collection of everything I wish I knew when I started production, or even in the games industry back in 2010. Oh, did you? Oh, wow, thank you so much, Riyadh. And I really hope it can help you. As a minor spoiler, it's not entirely facts about the games industry. It is accepting that the world around you will change as a game producer and how to deal with that, because that's what has been difficult. But yeah, that's how I got to where I am now, and I'm really enjoying sharing information with everything I've seen so far to help the next generation of game producers go further, faster, and without having to learn. They can learn the easy way, stuff that I've learned the hard way. Yeah. So Kritik,
Yes.
for the next thing, are there any questions you want to ask me first, or shall we dive into the little exercise we talked about?
Yeah, like before diving, I think it's just a quick question. It's just a quick question, right? Like before diving into the actual mentorship part. Often people sometimes think product management and production and producers are one and the same thing, but we know it's quietly different. The approaches is very different. I need like you to elaborate a little bit about the differences so that, at least people can stop confused. People don't get confused about it in the later stages. I think we can put an end to
Cool.
it.
All right, cool. Myth number one. So product management versus production. So product management is very specific. That is when you are the owner of a product and need to see its success through, and you need to handle all the various facets around that. You need to manage the resources that make it happen. You need to clarify the goals of it. And then you will seek help from consultants, suppliers, which may be outsourcers or your teams, and you will probably be in charge of the budget around this, but your responsibilities relate very directly to the final product. As a producer, this is sometimes the case, and in a smaller studio, the smaller a game you're working on, the more likely you will be helping on this. And so in a game where maybe there's only 5 people and with one producer, you can be sure that producer is going to need to be handling the product management responsibilities, because around that you'll probably have a designer, a coder, an artist, and perhaps an audio person or something else around that. You need them to make the game, so you'll need to be managing the product. In my case, I have also spent a lot of time in different production roles where very far from this responsibility. And it's more like, imagine in a factory, my responsibility is more like the conveyor belt, the pipelines. And so what people will be holding me responsible for is knowing that when they ring the bell of this particular pipeline, they will get back what they're asking for. Perhaps this is outsourcing for art. Perhaps this is the audio team. So back on Total War, it would be the case that a new faction would be being developed. And they would be relying on me to make sure the audio team could get all that information, figure out everything they needed, and deliver all the good audio. That was what I was responsible for making sure it happened. It is the outcome of the pipeline. Sometimes this may be other things. This may be a one-time service. So perhaps you're managing something like localization. Now, this generally only happens in one phase of a project, but they will be relying on you you'll be responsible for making sure that that all happens correctly. And this is about asking the correct questions early on. This is like ensuring the right set technologies or tools are set up to enable this to work later. Ensure the content is being gathered in a way that is going to work with the localization team at speed, and then that you have a localization team on hand with everything they need to deliver it. Again, this is a bit like a pipeline, but it's only once per project.
Okay.
That's kind of the vague difference. I think that's
Yeah.
the best one I can start.
Yeah. Last question. Yeah, Doug, last question. And thanks for the clear explanation. So let me say, when you mentioned about game production, do you think you have like project managers in big finance companies, finance companies or big corporate companies? I just don't want to mention the name of it. I know being a producer, you need to have a creative mindset. Is it okay for a design? Like, I understand that. Is it like when people are coming from these expertise, like from project and project development managers from different companies from different genres, do you think they should have a creative mindset, or an existing designer or existing game programmer can become a producer? What do you feel about that?
I would say in all of these cases, yeah, any of these people, there's no reason they couldn't come to and try to join the game industry as a producer. They will come from different places, and that experience will teach them some different things. So let's say you're a project manager in finance. You would need to suspend some of your expectations, because in the world of finance, you're not dealing with players. In the world of video games, yes, you are. But a lot of what you would have learned managing in finance, which is largely the passage of information to enable decision making, a lot of those mechanics will still be the same. It's just going to be that the inputs and outputs will be a bit different, and the working environment will be different. You will be surrounded by people with quite a specific kind of creativity. I don't want to say that people in the world of finance are not. I don't want to say that they're not creative, because I expect that's not true. If the only time you don't need someone creative is when the things are going to only do the same thing they ever needed to do every single time. But it will be a different creativity in the world of games. Like in games, we have to grapple with this horrendous thing called fun, which is almost impossible to define, is never the same twice, and is different for different people, and it's almost impossible to predict. And so you need to create space for an unknown thing to be worked out in your projects. So in terms of for designers and programmers coming into production, 100%. I have seen it many times. And I am always quite pleased to hear that people are coming in from different sides, because they all come in with a different strength or attitude. And there is no one attitude that is good for production. Like, I personally am very much in favor of diverse thought spaces. And so I would assume like a programmer is coming in and they know how to look at a problem from a systematic point of view, which is really good for designing a pipeline to ensure something needs to happen many times, or designing the way a project is supposed to come in. They can analyze inputs, outputs, and variables. Designers in a similar way, but also design students and game designers, a lot of them need to have a very good understanding of psychology. And that is really valuable in the production space, because every time you have to interact with another person, and especially if you're trying to get people to do something, you actually have to grapple with why they would do something and how they would approach it. And so designers with a bit of psychological background are arriving with a very good strength. It is actually quite a new thing that we have people coming from a game production education space. The idea that we have degrees now, university degrees in game production. This is very new. It's quite exciting, but I don't think it will take away from the value of the other experiences feeding it.
No, because the question why I asked this, because when project managers come from different fields like finance, work pipelines to vary from a games industry or a typical finance industry or a software industry, right? Sometimes, they have to kind of lower the expectations. It's like games cannot be made like a product, like an instant product. It takes time. You make mistakes. You have to go back and you have to make a couple of changes. So sometimes you have to make them understand that it's a creative field. It takes time to release a product. So that was the question I wanted to. That's the reason I asked this question.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay then. Yes, Doug. We'll start the session right now, the main part. And I think you have a lot of
All
time.
right.
We can go slow.
Okay. So I'm actually thinking, given that we have Riyadh here, perhaps we can get Riyadh to help us kick this off. Cool.
Riyadh, can you hear me?
So
Sure.
cool. So I need you to give me something, and that something is I need you to give me a brief of a video game you would like built. So this can be anything. Well, off the top of your head, like a basic idea for a game, like what would the player be doing, like a platform, multiplayer, single player, and you're going to see what we're going to do. We're going to come up with a quick production plan.
All right, yeah. Let's do what game ideas do I have? I don't want to give away my best ideas. But let's say, okay, we're doing a 4-player co-op game where you explore mysterious alien cave planets.
Cool. All right. Is this a 2D or a 3D game?
2.5D.
2.5D. Nice. So split the difference. And is this on consoles, PC? What's the platform?
Consoles and PC.
Consoles and PC. Cool. All right. And let's pretend there's a budget. We don't need to write down what it is right now. Cool. So, no, zooming in doesn't work. Doesn't matter. So this is my. This doesn't look like much, but this is enough to start thinking about. Because what we know we're going to need from this, we are going to need 4 player characters. We know we are going to need alien environments to explore. We know we are going to need 2.5D technology, and it's going to have to be a good enough fidelity level for consoles and PC. And 4-player also means it's going to need networking. And so what happens here is someone is pitching, I want this, figure out, Doug, like go figure out what it's going to take to make it. So we're going to just jump straight into a little bit of calculating. So what do we know we need? We know we are going to need player characters, and it's going to have to be 4 of those. There's going to need to be, and I hope this is large enough. Let's actually, is this the best way to do this? Let's get zoom, controller. Let's go to 150. Cool. So we know we're going to need player characters. We know we're going to need environments. And should we say 20? There's 20 levels that they have to go through. Good campaign. Cool, let's do it. Well, as ever, you always need a menu system, but just one of those. Are there going to be enemies in this? Will there be hazards? Okay.
Yeah, there are environmental hazards. There's wildlife, and there are mechanical drones as well.
Cool. All right, let's keep that interesting. Organic, enemy creatures, synthetic. Cool. Let's say we have 10 organic foes and 5 synthetic foes. Nice. And some other things you're going to need here. I guess you're going to need Player movement, system. This is where I'm just thinking, what are some of the features that you need coding? Combat system, probably an inventory system. Scripting system, let's do it. Campaign design. Yeah, actually, let's go campaign system. Save load. A lot of these things come up. Networking. And this can probably be enough to start with. These are all ones. Cool. So with each of these, then you're thinking for each individual thing, how much of each thing does it take? And you let the calculation start to build. So for a player character, you maybe only need I'm currently thinking weeks for this. So for each player character, maybe you only need 2 design weeks per individual character. In terms of coding, per character, it's only 1 each. Most of the rest is handled by the system. 2D art, let's say 4 weeks, because each character is going to have like different representations in the menu. 3D art, let's do the duty. Let's spend 6 weeks on them, 6 weeks on their animations, a little bit on their VFX, 2 weeks on their audio, maybe 4 on their writing. Let's say it's got a lot of writing in it. Production will just be 1 thing. In fact, it may even be 0.5. QA, start with 1. Environments. So design, given that these are explore things, you figure out each of these will need probably about 6 weeks of design work. And you can already see there's a lot of design time building, having 20 environments. And you see how quickly it starts to build. Coding, it's mostly going to be, let's do an environmental hazard system. Break down in a systemic form. 2D art, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 1 week per, because it's just the level tiles. 3D art. Now this is probably 10 weeks is a lot, but these kind of things take a while to make. Maybe a couple of weeks of environmental animations, 3 weeks of VFX, 2 weeks of audio per level when they're done. 1 of writing, it's just the level descriptions at the start. And actually, no, there's narrative. So actually, that scales up. Production, 0.5 again. I'm actually just going to put 0.5 for production all the way down, I expect. Menu system, 1 thing. Let's do all the design, actually. It's quicker for me to think that way. For enemy creatures, 2 weeks per. Same again. Player movement system. Yeah, that's 1. All the systems. Environments are wrong. That kind of thing bothers me. So campaign system, that's actually probably going to need quite a bit of design. Level scripting, 2 weeks. Inventory, yeah, maybe just 2 weeks. Combat system, actually, that's a lot of design work. So coding is going to start to build. Actually, maybe the synthetics are very complicated. Let's do it. Player movement system, 6 weeks. Combat 4, infantry 2, level scripting 2, campaign system 2, save load 4, always complicated. Networking 6, never goes well the first time, 2 weeks. And while I'm going, Riyadh, if you want to ask other questions about things, feel free to dive in. Like I'm listening as well, and I can just rattle this in the background.
Yeah, thank you. No, I was just I was just wondering if it's a recorded session or not. Because if it is, I'm happy to support you as an audience. If it's not, I might not be the right target audience. So,
no. What is it? What are you looking to get out of a session such as this? What are your current career aspirations as we go?
Yeah, I was a bit I was curious about your approach. But I've been doing video games professionally over 20 years, and I've worked in AAA and indie, and I've run my own video game studio and so on. So I might not be the right target audience. But I mean, if it's recorded and other people will listen to it, I'm happy to help you facilitate the call and so on. And I appreciate seeing how you approach this. This is also why I bought the book, to learn from somebody that's
Cool.
experienced as well.
This kind of thing is this kind of thing is like the very kind of basic level. This is the first kind of how you go from someone says game idea to starting to have a sense of how things are costed, because it feels like too much when people grapple with it. Yeah. So, and are you senior game dev? Are you in production yourself, or are you programmer, developer?
I'm the founder, so yeah, I'm kind of like a programmer by trade, but then I shifted into like a management role. But I've been doing Scrum Master stuff and so on. I worked here in Berlin at Jager. It's Spec Ops The Line and Dead Island 2, and then started my own studio called Machine Mensch, and yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
actually visited Jaeger back in the day when you were working on the cycle. Yeah.
Oh,
a couple
nice.
Of us came over from Crete. It's at the time where we had a little we were having some consultation going, like when I was a creative assembly.
Nice.
Yeah. It was really cool seeing your studio. You guys taught us a lot about blueprinting.
Yeah, it's been I left some time ago, but yeah, it's a good studio. They got acquired, cool. I think, by Tencent.
Yeah. Spec Ops The Line was amazing. Like, so that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, I did like gameplay programming on it.
Hey, no, absolute legendary project. I hope they make it playable again sometime, because it's not playable right now, is it?
No, it's not, because of my music licensing issues.
These things happen. Cool. I'm gonna speed run the rest of this because it'll start to make the point. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, writing has to do a lot more work than you expect in these. Networking gets 2, QA, campaign gets 2, combat gets 2. All right, so what you're starting to see is how expensive the features are. In fact, let's we can do something here, and then Riyadh, up to you if you want to stay from here, but otherwise the session will continue its recording. But the next thing I want to show from this is how this looks when suddenly you realize you measure things and think, oh, yeah, it doesn't feel like too much. And so then you see just how many weeks worth of work these things take, and which of your teams are going to need to be the large ones. And so for this, you see your design team actually has to be very large if the levels are this complicated, or they need a lot of time. Maybe this is the kind of thing you can do a lot of in early production before you bring other teams on. It's not the most complicated coding one. If there's not too much physics involved and things like that. Your 3D art is going to be huge because there's many assets to make, and options are play movement system. Yeah, that's it. If the environments are complicated, then not actually that much production by comparison. Potentially not a huge team. And you can also start asking yourself the question of, okay, but which of the expensive features, like what could we bring down? And you can see actually obvious, without being too surprising, it's the environments that are really expensive. The actual global systems are not crazy. Now, of course, this is me guessing. You put this in front of some coders and they say, how dare you say this is only 2 weeks of work? This is why you would bring in the experts to analyze this. But the environments are often huge. Okay, so this is either there are too many or they're too difficult. So perhaps there are, maybe we could drop these down to 12 if we didn't want to drop the quality. That brings them in. Yeah, maybe we drop the quality a bit, like maybe they don't need that quite as many varied textures and things. So let's see if we can get, let's see what 6 weeks of work per environment gets us. I mean, I'm reducing the cost by quite a lot, but so project total weeks is 851. You tend to get 50-ish working weeks in a year. And so for one person, we're currently looking at I can't do it. So yeah, we're looking at about 9 years for a single person if they were doing absolutely every single one of these things. Or obviously you want this done in 3, so perhaps you stretch this up to 3 people, or maybe you want it done faster and you now start to scale the teams up, because actually what you tend to have is a peak in the middle of all your developers and things. Now obviously this isn't everything, this is complete guessing out of nowhere, but this is a way, this very basic spreadsheet, to try to figure out the kind of cost, because people are going to ask you this as a producer. The other thing they're going to be asking is when stuff gets done. So perhaps you will need, how do we do this? Perhaps you need to start a basic way to start mapping these things out. So what I'm gonna move a couple of these things that have multiple aspects. So play characters, environments, and enemy creatures. So these can come out. And what was the other one? There were play characters, environments, creatures and creatures. Cool. So let's move these up, because you start to realize there's actually some dependencies on these. And so you'll need of everything. You'll generally need a prototype version. You'll need your alpha version, and then there will be the final. And let's say if you is how long your things would take to do, and what the dependencies were, because obviously what you would need to do is your save load system would probably come quite late on. Your networking is actually quite important right at the beginning, so let's not do that. But perhaps you need a working version of this first. Let's say, yeah, so you need at the very least a prototype of your, let's prototype. Yeah, we need that working there. Like, these are hard to grab. So menu system probably comes first. Play movement, combat, inventory system is less important at the beginning. You don't need that to prove out the very basic level of the game. Even level scripting, like how things actually proceed, can come later. Campaign as well can come later. Save load, prototyping comes at the beginning. Player characters you need, environments you need. Environmental hazards can also wait. So what you're seeing is you're going to start having an order in which your work is going to need to be done. So let's start to put some of these in order. If you want to prove this out as a networking, if you want to prove out a multiplayer game, you need to do the networking at the beginning. But these milestones, let's actually assume they're about 3 months. And so let's do this. Let's say it's March, then it's June. And then stretch it out here. And let's put a cheeky thing, year 1. Merge those. Year 2. So across 2.5 years. You're starting to arrange these things, and it all needs to be final by then. And so everything's got to be final at the end. But is this going to work? When you can't have everything alpha at the same time. So maybe you want everything needs to be alpha by the end here, but actually some of these alphas need to be done before the others, probably in that same order. So you bring those forward, you bring those forward. And then you start to realize something else. You can't actually do all of these at once because these player characters, there's 4 of them. So you need to, so we're going to need to split these up. And then you can start to schedule. So if we drag these down here, player characters 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe you can only handle, maybe your character team can only handle 1 at a time. And maybe you prototype these before you do that. So yes, this will be quicker. This is what your character team is having to do. And then if you need to be alpha by then, you'll need, so you can't start on this alpha until this prototype is done. So actually, these alphas are running later. Once you start mapping, you start to see these things. And this will be giving a sense of this, and then you need to do the same for your enemy creatures, your organic or synthetic. You figure out how many can they do at once. Maybe you can do enemy creatures 2 at a time. I won't build the entire Gantt now. I think we're getting through the time. Once you've started to come up with this first kind of plan, how it would have to look, if it could be done by then, how many people it would take to do these things by then, then you're going to be starting to zoom into, let's say now we're working on, let's say we are doing one of the environments, like we are doing the March milestone, 2 of the environments. And for the environments, what do we need? So we need some design work, code, 2D art, 3D art. We need a bit of everybody. So what are we going to show to the actual developers to track them? Now we're in Trello. Trello is a basic but effective project managing software. You can create free accounts and play around with things. As you start to build multiple boards, you may start to get into purchasing plans. But what is commonly done, let's say there's two versions I would suggest to have a look at here. The first is the sprint board, which people think of a lot. And this is used to divide things into, is to help break down what am I doing right now. Developers don't want to think of huge lists. They want to know what they're doing right now and focus. So what you'll commonly see is stuff that's in the backlog, stuff that is to do, stuff that is in progress, things that are blocked, perhaps, for review. Kritik mentioned the fact that things need iteration, and they always do. And so it's recommending building, I recommend building this expectation into the way you work. And then so what do we need to do? We need a bit of this for everybody. So let's say we're doing environment 1. And this is going to need to be environment 1. Who are we going to do first? Design.
Exactly.
And copy it. And I'd like to be able to just copy this a dozen times. You would often be able to assign these to different people if you had, let's say I was the designer for this. Cool, you would assign this to me so I can start to see the work that's on me. And it needs doing now. And so once it's in to do, I can see it, perhaps. And then meanwhile, you're starting to see these other things that are being put together. Now you might start to, this is starting to look like a lot just for a single environment, and you'd be correct, because these start to look, these are huge. These are always huge, because games are complicated and they take a huge amount of collaboration to work together on.
Exactly. I could see it. I could see it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But having this at the beginning, having someone figuring out these basic ideas means you can start making these kind of decisions from the start, and you'll want to think about how you track these as you go. But let's say, as someone's working on this, like I move to in progress once I'm dealing with it. I block it if I have a problem. Back to in progress. I'm done. I review it, but then I assign it to like manager. There is no manager.
Okay.
So I chuck it in review. They look at it. They give me a load of feedback. It goes into iteration. Then I'll send it for final review. They thought of some more feedback. It comes back to iteration. This could loop for a while, and in many cases it should. And so then when it is finally complete, it's probably not be doing, it's pushed to done. You'd want this for all, you'd need this for every single cell in that you would start to see in here, character 1, for this milestone, for each person involved with this. And so it quickly becomes a very large and complicated spreadsheet at first, usually. And then these tools exist to start streamlining it. One other version. Sorry, Kritik, yeah, you've got your hand raised.
No, Doug, you completed. I think I can ask, and I'll ask in the Q&A. You can complete it.
Okay, cool. There can be another way that you want that some people do this, or in the way you track it. So maybe what you do is instead, actually, this is just one card, and then these become the departments in the right order. So Your design gets in, your code does it, your 3D art does their work. Maybe then your 2D art does their work. Your writing does their work. Maybe it's actually a narrative-driven game and your writing comes first. And so what's actually happening is your task is working through. When writing is done, they pass it to design. When design's done, it goes to code to set it up. And the 3D art's done, then the 2D art, animation, etc. It depends on the way your team works. Like if it is a very long, complex pipeline, if you don't do it in here, you'll want a version of it somewhere. You'll need some version to know who is going to be working on it, in what order. You'll need some version to know, for everyone to know what the next thing they should be doing is. And someone needs to know the whole plan. And that person is meant to be you, because most people actually just like tinkering and playing with a game. It is your job to make this scary stuff boring. And I'm sure I've made it boring right now, but this is some of the kind of thought process I go through when this comes to me. As an example of something, one of the interviews I had, a production interview I had once, it was very, very smartly put together. I was told I had a team of 3 engineers and I had to plan a 3-week sprint. And there were 4 people I could talk to. There was a head of engineering, a head of design, head of product, a head of art, and a client management officer. And then go. That's it. Everything else, like that interview was testing my ability to figure out which questions I needed to ask them successfully, to gather all the information I needed, to then compare the conflicts in these priorities, and then bring out an actionable plan. And this had to all be done in less than an hour. And so this is some of the reason I'm showing this, is because this is a model of what comes. So that was a demo of laying out information from a simple, from a request, a request for a game. Sorry, you were going to say something. I've talked about.
Yeah, actually, I would say out of all the production sessions that I've attended so far, I would say this is the only session which I've seen with a clear demonstration of what a producer does, the tools, as well as the Google Docs, and as well as you mentioned about Trello. I've seen a lot of organizations use Jira actually. But the first time I'm seeing a Trello board, which was used, I think in the previous discussions also, even you showed me about Trello board. Even I saw a Trello board in one of your videos actually. I have a question. It's a little bit not game development, it's a little bit into these tools. In Jira, you have this concept of Epic, right? Do you in
Yes.
Trello board also you have Epic in Trello board?
In Trello boards, there's not this structure built in. But what you do have is you have some labels, because Trello was designed to be much simpler. The same company actually owns Trello, that owns Jira. So Jira is developed by Atlassian, and they bought Trello a few years ago.
Oh.
And they are different products for different levels. If you are at the stage where you need things like epics, then you will probably need something more complicated than Trello. Trello is good for a small team to see where their things are, and is working nicely like a virtual whiteboard. You can have it interact with other pieces of software. You can have it interact with Google Sheets and calendars. You can have quite a few people on it. A lot of people use them just to store things like lists of lists. That's actually the main thing I do with it in my life. But I did actually use a Trello board for a personal. I used a Trello board for writing the book.
Okay.
So the way I did it is, you know what? I'll share it. I think I can do that. So let me make sure I don't think this gives away anything problematic. So yeah, I'll do a quick share. Like, here's what I made earlier. So this was the feature creep. Like, it's not a feature creep. I saw the one down here because that was a chapter. I figured out the whole. I got my outline together. I got my outline together for what the book was, like the chapters and the kind of points I wanted to cover in each one. And then this Trello board is shaped like the pipeline for me. And so what I had was all of these sub-chapters that you can see on the side here. Like every single sub-chapter in the book was a card, was a ticket. And so, for example, there was one like, here's one on when I wanted to write about your first week in the job, I just came and wrote it here. And breaking it down made it so much easier for me to engage, because all I was doing was thinking about it. And when I was working on that card, I just moved that one card to, like, I just moved it to, oh, maybe, is it locked? Is that why I can't move anything anymore? Maybe. That makes some sense. But I moved it to in progress for draft 1. Because what I did was I figured out the amount of stuff I needed to do and the process that I wanted to go through for every single thing. So that was do a draft, put it to the side, and then do everything else. So I wanted to do everything to draft 1 first, then into progress, then to draft 2. Then add it to the manuscript, formatting. So I'm still checking that every single thing needs all this work. Formatting complete. It made it so much easier. This kind of project, Trello is good for. Epics. So epics are a very specific thing, and they have the name for a reason. So Jira is a tool designed to make agile development smoother. Right? It's focused towards it. So like sprints are heavily built in. It's designed to make sprints easy to build, or a Kanban board easy to build. And then all the built-in reports for Jira are designed to show the kind of decisions that you would make if you were in purely agile project management. So at the end of the sprint, it would show you what an agile project manager wants to know about the sprint. What was done, what wasn't, what was the velocity? Because that's how this works. I think the reason it comes from epic, why they've used the word epic, is because often the base level in this kind of Jira or this agile, it's not a task, it's a user story. So the user story is often what you would ask a product owner. They're expressing a desire about the product. Let's say staying outside games. Let's say you are doing an app where people can upload pictures of things they have crafted to sell to other people. An example of a user story was user can take a picture and create a product listing. Like in fact, actually, the way you often would schedule it is like as a blank, I can blank in order to blank. So as a user, I can take a picture in order to create a product listing.
Okay.
That would go into Jira, and then be passed among a small team who would then add the tasks or the subtasks for the things they needed to do to achieve that.
Exactly.
But that story So many stories start to make up an epic. Many epics, I don't know if some people have done it, make up a saga, or I think you tend to see more an initiative at that level. Like the storytelling metaphor kind of doesn't get far beyond epic, but that's why it's called that.
So it's like a story within that main story, with story within that sub stories, within that sub stories. It's like that. But
you don't tend to have sub stories. You tend to have sub tasks, because what the user story is supposed to be on the level that the user would actually think. Like if someone was complaining about what they like about your product and what they wanted to do with it, their complaint to you may come in the form of a user story. Like I want to see how many people have looked at this to know whether my picture is doing right.
Okay.
And if you think about that, that's pretty much a user story. Like the user wants, like the user would like wants to have a view count in order to measure gauge the success of their listing. You can pass that to people to figure out, cool, what does that require? So a code, like your web developer can decide, okay, that needs a listening thing. Your UI designer can say, that needs numeric display. Maybe it should look like this. And that's probably it. That kind of little web interface doesn't take a lot of work, but that gets contained within the story. That user story would likely be part of the epic of product listings, because within that epic you would have the various stories of, and there will be many stories in an epic of, I want to see the I want to know how many people are viewing my product. I want to be able to upload a picture. I want to be able to put information about this in order to tell people what it is. I want to be able to propose a price. I want to be able to put price on discussion. All of that kind of thing. I want to be able to schedule when my listing becomes visible. That kind of thing. All of this will be in the epic of player listings. You may then have a separate epic for buyer-seller communication.
Okay.
And then all the stories, like, so that's okay, we want to buyer-seller communication. How about, Krithik, how about you give me an example of a user story in an epic for this app of buyer and seller messaging system. So what's one user story you could imagine for that?
Buyer seller messaging system. Okay. Buyer seller. Okay. I would say like when a feedback of a product, I would say, because when a user buys a product, end of the day has to give a feedback. So I would say a feedback as I would say epic could be a product, and epic could be a product, but below that product it could be a feedback. It was a feedback of a product. Feedback. A user story can be feedback.
So I want you to try and give it to me in that user story format. As a blank, I would like to blank in order to blank. So
okay.
Maybe as a buyer or as a seller. Start with that.
Okay. So, as a seller, if I want to know, as a seller, I want to know whether my product is good. I need to ask the customer's feedback. Based on that feedback, I can improve the product.
Cool. So shortening it even more, these take practice when you play with them for a while. As a seller, I want to see my customers' ratings and feedback in order to improve my products.
Exactly.
Cool. And this actually plays into something we mentioned right at the beginning or early on about psychology. Because this is why a lot of these user stories were designed this way. they're supposed to be psychologically realistic. They're supposed to be very respectful of the user, and they're very connected to a goal, a user's goal. The idea is if you can't write a good user story for it, it might not make sense to make it. So that's what that is. Yeah. Is that I went a long way round and kind of brought a lot into that, answering that question about epics and Trello and Jira. But I hope that was useful. Yeah,
of course. So okay, then we'll just I think we did a lot of production. We'll get into actual games actually. A lot of things have been going around the games industry. We'll keep production aside. I think within 15 minutes we'll discuss other things related to the video games development.
Yeah.
So I had this experience. I think I spoke to one of the producers in the video games in the India Game Developers Conference, which happened in the November first week. During the session, she mentioned about that person mentioned about collaboration over competition within the industry, like within the workplace environment. And I completely agree to that. In a games industry perspective, collaboration collaboration plays an important role, and it is directly proportional to a product or a game's success. I was thinking about it actually. Why don't we have collaboration between industries? Games industry as a platform. Let me say Activision is competing with Blizzard. Activision is competing with Machine Games, or Machine Games is competing with Remedy. I have this idea that why don't game studios collaborate with one another to deliver a good product to the customers? Actually, I was having this in mind because I could see that recent times that game studios are going to a shift, which is kind of going to a very low shift right now. A lot of layoffs, lack of funding, studios closure. I would say like big companies can collaborate rather than depending on other software companies for funding. So that's what I was thinking about. So what's your opinion on this? Like if collaboration can work within a workplace, why don't between once called competitors, why don't between studios, video game studios, so that we could create a very big ecosystem?
So there's a lot in that question, and there's going to be a lot in the answer.
Okay.
In a marketplace, which video games are, there is inherently some competition because your customers don't have infinite resources, and like not everyone can buy every game at, I don't know, $50 every single day. I could not buy every game on Steam. I'm not able to afford it. And so there's not space for every single idea to succeed at that level. We've got some fun examples in the past of where the competition was a tie and both people lost. A good example are the two games Split Second and Blur. These released, I think, may have been around 2010, 2011. I can't remember exactly. Actually, I've got a 2010. I have a website open in the other tab. I'll show you in a moment because I want people to know about it. They were both exciting games about kind of combat racing. Like Blur was a bit like Mario Kart, but HD with real cars. Split Second felt to me like Michael Bay Racer, where you have a race, but like buildings are falling down and exploding. And both of these clashed, and they took up about half of the adrenaline racing audience each. And it wasn't enough success for either of them. They both failed. They both failed to be successful enough. And so this competition is a good example of why both games wanted to survive, and they wanted to win the entire audience, because that was the risk being taken when the project was greenlit and funded. But that is why competition exists, and some game studios are extremely protective of everything because they know a lot of their ideas and technologies, and are part of their success, and they don't want to let the secret sauce out. Some famously like secretive companies are Valve, about whom we never really know what's going on in there, and also Grand Theft Auto. So the Rockstar team.
Okay.
Some studios like to be quite open about their processes and connect. Others prefer, like Rockstar, like the mystique. And it's purely dependent on what the collaboration is, like what the connection is, and the character of the team and things like that. And Rockstar, over time, they built this thing of, they liked being able to show up with, like, they just like drop a video and the whole world goes wild. They like that. When I was at Creative Assembly, that just wasn't our character. So for us, we liked collaborating with the community. It was kind of more of an ongoing thing. And I think this is often more true for multiplayer companies where you have a community to maintain. Yes, there is GTA Online, but that's not what started that franchise.
Exactly.
So, but swinging around to something else you were saying about the way the games industry is changing. So there are actually a lot of game studios collaborating in ways. Sometimes, so for example, every single Ubisoft game, now's the time. I'm going to share screen and show you Moby Games. Do you know Moby Games?
I might know. I just have to look at it. Just a second.
So this website is a very underrated resource for a game developer and a game producer. It's like the IMDb of video games. It's community maintained. Wow, I've got to verify my age to view. What on earth is this? That is not. Maybe it's just the fact that it's got a blade, or it says mature. Who knows? The reason I'm here is this button, credits.
Okay.
Because all of these games have the full credits of the games. And what you'll notice is there are over 7,000 people listed in this credits.
Okay. I
had a friend point out to me that the credits for Assassin's Creed Shadows take 2 hours to watch.
Oh.
This is how big they are. But what you'll notice is how many different studios are involved. So ignoring the names for a minute, let's look at the studios. So for example, development team, Ubisoft Lead Studios, animation, art. So we're still in Ubisoft Lead. Who's the next one to come up? Ubisoft Belgrade, Ubisoft Bordeaux, Ubisoft Bucharest and Craiova, Chengdu, right? Osaka, Philippines, Shanghai, Singapore, Sofia, then Bulgaria, Ukraine, Leamington and Reflections, both in the UK. Just an anvil pipeline. I think they just like make assets like vehicles and weapons. Mumbai, Romania. This is their QA department.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go through them all because of how long it would take. This is absolutely wild. But what the example is here is Ubisoft have developed their pipelines in a way that their studios have become specialists. And in a lot of ways, this is quite a high risk model because you have to keep the whole thing going. But the advantage is this, like they can make sure whenever they get anything, it's going to be really high quality, because whenever they get a vehicle, it's from a whole studio's worth of people that know how to do a vehicle well. And so they have known that this collaborative method is good, and they want it at the scale. But one of the other things, these are all internal. Many other studios, they're not as big as this. They don't own as many. And so they will connect with other co-dev studios for some aspects. You may remember how big the 3D art spike was, and when we first did our little resource plan earlier. It's of no surprise. I think design is the one I've figured out, unless that's all spread out at the beginning in pre-production. It's of no surprise that 3D art in particular is often outsourced to a huge amount in the video games industry, because it is a disproportionate amount of work for a realistic visual experience. And I think we are actually likely to see more of this as the games industry changes. I think we're going to see a few more networks of people and studios making games, because you'll start to have a few, you'll have some professionals here, like a consultant here, a contractor there. This is also easier to manage as well, because more and more people are becoming, it's easier to get good at this. There is more advice online now. There are more tools now to enable being a consultant or a contractor, or to find other people. Some people make games just by reaching out on Fiverr. In fact, another game I love pointing out on this is Return of the Obra Dinn. Do you know this game?
Wait just a second. Which one?
Return
no.
of the Obra Dinn.
Nope.
So this has a very different credit screen. 89 people, most of them are just character voicings. This is a Lucas Pope game. Lucas Pope famously developed Papers, Please, and then later went on to develop Return of the Obra Dinn. Really good game, really intelligent. But something I found really fun in the credits for this was, when you watch the credits in the videos, you'll see that most of these people come through something called voices.com. And most of the game was just done by Lucas Pope. There were some assets and things that he bought. So you can see here, like he bought farm animal assets from 3DRT. He bought a cow skull model from Game Ready, and a guy called Chris Mellons gave him the monkey model. But there you go, voices.com casting management. For all the characters, they only speak 1 or 2 lines each. You don't hire people for this kind of thing. But voices.com exists for exactly this kind of service. So you can audition a voice for this kind of character. You can send them what they need, and they can, from their home studio, record these few lines and send them back through the platform. Getting just a few voice lines from a professional voice actor is easier than ever through a platform such as this. There are more and more of these coming. And so I am expecting to see far more people who are able to interact with contractors or an outsourcers or a co-dev service on their own. But something that a good producer can do is they can make themselves aware of these. Like, let's say, like, if you've got an indie game that you're then supporting, or a small team, you want to be the one that when someone says, we need this, you can say, I can get this. You carry on with the game, I will go get this. You don't have to worry.
Very important.
Yeah, and you can do it confidently, efficiently. What I recommend is, if in that case, like you start to make sense of these things, figure out I think this is where producers will be really valuable in the way coming forward. It's the job I have now, is being a good supporter for outsourcing, and so helping find talent for the right time, helping find contractors, and helping developers trust another stranger, yet another stranger, with their baby, because it can be difficult. In the book, there's a lot on building trust. I can't give it all the way now. There's too much of it. This is, I really recommend, like, for every producer, everyone that wants to know what it takes to make a video game, think of a game you like. In fact, we'll do one now. Krethik, what's a game you've been enjoying recently?
Recently, I started playing Max Payne 1 2 weeks back. Started playing Max Payne 1 2 weeks back.
Max Payne 1, so the original 2001?
Yes. Acted
Okay.
by Sam Lake, I think the creative director.
Cool. So this is going back 25 years.
Yes. No, I still
These are
can't
always
believe
fun.
it. Because I played the game and I still can't believe it. It's kind of made. I still can't believe that. You know, it's like made so amazing in 2001.
Yeah.
Still can't believe it.
They did. It was an extraordinary job. It felt quite groundbreaking at the time as well, like that vibe, that storytelling in that kind of shooter. And also they brought bullet time into the games industry, which was fantastic.
No, because
So
sorry, I forgot to. You can tell. You were telling something.
Okay. Well, what I recommend is picking a game that you like, and especially if you're thinking, I want to make a game like this, find games like it on Moby Games. Look at the credits. See what it took to make that game. So as an example, looking at Max Payne, if you wanted to make this again, so what have you got? You've got leads. Your programming team is like, there's a programming team here of 7. There's a level design team of 4. 1 is modeling, 1 is animating. In fact, he does quite a lot. Several are doing textures as well as this. Then you've got a few other people doing lots of things. Someone had to do the menu, the sound work, the graphic novel art, the skybox art. Like someone did that specifically. And it's a company. You've got office managers, you've got IT support. Someone's doing business and finance. People are just managing the company. You want to use weapons, real ones? Cool. Weapon consultant. They may well not have been full-time. That was probably a contractor. And then what else? Voiceovers. Cool. Voiceover turns into a whole group of people. And then you get to the cast. Or these are all special thanks. There's always a bunch. Marketing and PR, if you underestimate it. Like, it doesn't take marketing to make a great game, but it does take marketing to sell it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, I recommend anyone trying to make sense of how to make the games they want, see what it took to make it last time. So that even here, look, these are people. The models, as in the humans that they base the character on. And so that's who they are. And Sam Djervi, like obviously is the first one, but then we had quite a few others. So that's something I wanted to share.
No, because it's so fascinating that, you know, Sam Lake during the time in 2001 didn't bring in actors, but he used his office colleagues as the characters in the game. I just saw it recently.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, because I played the game a few years back, I didn't know about it. But when I played it recently, I got this news that Sam Lake used his own colleagues in the story.
Well, that's actually that's kind of common, and especially in smaller companies or when you're just starting out. So it's well, here's the funny thing. We call him Sam Lake. His name is Sami Djervi, which is Finnish for Sam Lake. Yeah.
Okay.
So he's having fun with that. My face is in Alien Isolation, and like it is one of the wanted posters on the walls in the.
Can you show it? Can you show it, please, if you don't mind?
No, I can't. No, I've tried to find it. It's actually really hard to find like a playthrough that looks at it. Most of the 3D models you see in Alien Isolation, they are scans of Office team members. And so when a game is smaller, you can have more fun with this. When it gets bigger, then when you start to get into brand management, you then have to start being careful, because you then tie the brand, like you don't want brands to be fragile, and connecting that with an individual's identity, that starts to become a risk. And so like putting his face as the face of Max Payne for Sami Järvi, it's kind of remained a bit of a risk. He's done fairly well in that he is still a big part of the institution at Remedy and owns it. But it can be complicated. So like that, you can end up with characters that have been cancelled. A very famous, a good example was when Jesse McCree was renamed to Cole Cassidy, because that was the name of a staff member who then got in some very uncomfortable business, and so that's a risk you take, and because you don't want to put the pressure on an individual person to live their life under the kind of microscope of a brand. You don't want to do that, or if you do, they've got to be ready for it. So that's why when you are using a face, you kind of want to take the whole models thing very seriously. This one to take seriously. I think I am going to be having to go soon, so we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, sure. Just a second. Anyway, let me stop the recording for a second. So, anyways, thanks, Doug. Thanks for being part of the call, and I had a great experience. I told you, this is my first podcast, and I had a great experience. And I would like thank you for being a part of this session, and I hope it's gonna be helpful for everyone. And before that, just a second, and thank you.